Chelsea from So Simple Home here today. Today I'm going to share with you a super simple lesson from our Sewing 101 series called Threading Your Sewing Machine. Now, threading your machine can be a tricky thing for some people, especially if you've never done it before. But let me tell you, it's really easy, and once you get the hang of it and know how your machine works, it'll be a breeze. Now, most machines thread very similarly, so you're going to need the same materials. So let's go through what you need. First, you're going to need a spool of thread. Pick a color you know you're going to use often so that you're not wasting any of your thread. You're going to need your bobbin. If you have a machine that has just a drop-in bobbin that goes at the top of your machine arm, all you'll need is a bobbin. If you have a machine like mine that opens up, you're also going to need your bobbin case. So make sure you have those two items. The next thing you're going to need is probably your manual for your sewing machine, just to ensure that you are threading your machine and threading your bobbin the correct way for your particular machine. Like I said, they're all very similar, but there are small differences between machines. So what I'll show you today should translate fairly easily with your machine, and if you have your manual, you should be able to follow along pretty easily. All right, let's go ahead and get started. All right, I went ahead and zoomed in and made my sewing machine a little bit more so that you can see things just a bit better. We are actually going to start by threading our bobbin, okay? So your bobbin may be different. You might have a plastic bobbin, you might have a metal bobbin, you might have a thicker bobbin, you might have a thinner one. It really just depends on your machine and the type of bobbin that's in your machine. If you don't know, make sure you check your user's manual. They will give you instructions on what bobbin to get or what to search for when you're looking online to buy more. I only have about 4 or 5 of these metal bobbins, but that's plenty for me. I don't often change my bobbin thread. Maybe that's a bad thing, but you don't see it very often, so I'm kind of lazy that way. But let me show you how to thread your bobbin. So first, you're going to take your thread, whatever spool of thread you have. This is just an all-purpose thread from Coats & Clark. I'm going to put it on my spool pin. Almost always your thread will start up on your spool pin. Now on my machine in particular, I have a little bobbin winder that I go around, and then my bobbin goes over here. Okay, that's my machine. Many machines will have their bobbin winder on the side. Some of them will have them in the front. I've seen it in all different places. So it just depends on your machine. So this is one thing when winding your bobbin, check your manual. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my thread, I'm going to go around my bobbin winder, and then my bobbin, you can maybe see has a little slit or opening. Your bobbin might have just a little hole. A lot of the plastic ones just have a small hole. I'm going to take my thread and I'm going to go up through that hole from the center inside to the outside and pull. So there's going to be this thread on the front that's just kind of hanging. And I'm going to put that on my bobbin winder. And then on mine in particular, I'm going to go ahead and pull it. This little piece here, I snap in place, and that tells my machine to not move my needle. Okay, if I don't do that, it's not going to wind my bobbin and it's going to move my needle still. So I'm going to go ahead and push my foot pedal, and I like to hold this extra thread here. Oh, I lied. I need to move my hand wheel too. So on this side I have these 2 pieces. On my machine I have to move the hand wheel so that my needle doesn't move. I'm just going to wind it a little bit, and then I'm going to take my scissors here, if I can get them, and I'm going to cut this extra piece here, just so it's out of the way. And then I'm going to just continue winding. Now, typically you would wind it all the way up so that it's completely full. Your machine should get to a point where it actually stops winding on its own. Okay? But I'm just going to do that just so I don't waste too much thread. So you can see it's all on there. Now, you want to make sure that your thread is on there nice and tight. If it looks loosey-goosey, if it looks all knotted and gross, that means you didn't wind it correctly. So you want to make sure that your bobbin is wound nice and tight. If it's tight, you're good to go. Okay? Now, for drop-in bobbins, you would literally just drop it in and thread it, there should be some little arrows on the top to tell you how to thread it. For a bobbin case like mine, you're going to turn it. You're going to make sure that your bobbin, the thread, is being wound clockwise, and you're going to pop it into your bobbin case just like that. Okay, so this thread is hanging out. Then on the side you're going to see these little slits. You're just going to follow the slit all the way up to the top, so it's coming out of this top piece right here. You're just going to pop it right into your machine with this little knob up, and it should just snap right into place. If you hear the snap, you're doing it right. Okay, now I'm just going to leave this tail out, and I'm going to leave this open while we thread the rest of our machine. So once again, I have my thread. My thread for my spool pin should be coming from the back. If you have a spool pin on the inside, it's going to be very similar. It will just depend on your machine where your spool pin is. All right, so I'm going to take it from here, and I'll turn it so you can see. I have a thread guide back here on the back. You might have it up here on the top. Either way, you want to make sure you go through that thread guide. You should just be able to take the thread and go right underneath it or right over it. There's a little slit that should just allow your thread to come through. So that's your back or your top thread guide, depending on your machine. Then you're going to come through up here at the top. There's a slice. You're going to come through that slice to your front thread guide, which is down here. Now sometimes these things are swapped, so you might be coming on this side. It doesn't matter as long as you go from the top to your bottom thread guide. Then you're going to have this this top loop here, this top thread guide. You're going to bring it up through, that's your take-up lever. You're going to take it, bring it up through your take-up lever. Now your take-up lever actually has a little slit in it, just like on the back. So you're taking it to the take-up lever, to the back, and then forward, and it should thread itself. I often have students that just try and sit here with their thread and try and thread it through the take-up lever like this, and that's not correct. You don't have to do that. You don't need to take the time to do it. Just bring your thread up and forward. Now, if your take-up lever is way down here at the bottom, it's too hard to thread. Like you're gonna sit here forever to try and thread it. I always just move my hand wheel so my take-up lever is way up on top. So, top thread guide, front thread guide, take-up lever. Then I'm gonna come down, and usually right in front of your needle, sometimes right here, is another little thread guide, your needle thread guide. And I always put it around that. That just helps so that this thread here it doesn't get caught while I'm moving my fabric through. It just kind of keeps it out of the way. Now at this point, I usually take my scissors and trim my thread so it's nice and sharp, and then I'm going to go through my needle. See how fast I can do it while you're watching. Probably not very fast. Now some machines actually have a needle threader. It's usually on the side, and you can put it through the needle threader and then it threads your needle for you, which is really nice. Mine does not have that. And that's fine. You just have to get good at it. Okay, so now I have my thread through my needle, but my bobbin thread is still down here at the bottom. And the way a sewing machine works is the top thread loops around the bottom thread and pulls it up, and vice versa. And so it's looping together, and that's how it works. So if you don't have your bobbin thread on top, it's not going to work. So it's super easy to get your bobbin thread on top. You're going to hold your top thread, your thread that's going through your needle, with your left hand. With your right hand, you're going to take your hand wheel and you're going to move it towards your body so that the needle, you're noticing, goes down. It's all the way down, and keep going forward until it comes all the way back up. Okay, so my needle went down, came back up. Now all I have to do is pull this thread. Do you see this extra loop here? This loop is my bobbin thread. Now both of my threads are coming out the top. I can put them towards the back, and I can close my bobbin case. You see how that works? Pretty simple. It's much easier than you might think. when we're talking about the hand wheel and moving it, you always move it towards your body. So you're facing your machine, the hand wheel moves towards your body. If you're moving it the other way, you're moving it backwards. So make sure you're always moving it forward. Okay? Hopefully that helps. Hopefully we did it slow enough that you can figure it out on your own. But that is how you thread a sewing machine.